Well, hello, everybody. It is really great to see all of you joining us. I want to extend a warm welcome to all of you. This is our 2018 Follow the Sun event with the theme, Powering Our People to Drive Success. We have an exciting program for you today. We are very honored to host Kim Bimestefer, who is the Executive Director at the Colorado Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing. And she will be our featured speaker. We will also be watching a TED Talk that is titled Teach Girls Bravery, Not Perfection. And that will be followed by a table discussion. And we are also, of course, planning on enjoying some good food. So first of all, we're going to play a welcome from Courtney Gedaldig. She's the Executive Vice President of Public Affairs, and she's also our executive sponsor of WINS.
Congratulations to all of the WINS regional networks hosting Follow the Sun celebrations today. This flagship event has been successfully connecting WINS members around the world for 13 years. This year's WINS theme, Powering Our People to Drive Success, underscores S&P Global's vision to power the markets of the future. I applaud WINS for continuing to connect your member programming to the business imperatives that fuel our company's growth. Today's Follow the Sun events, taking place in 26 locations, have been created to help WINS members build their skills and identify opportunities for exposure, elevate STEM to fuel interest in STEM careers and attract female STEM talent, and most of all, propel our business forward with tangible results that benefit our customers and each other. To the hundreds of employees worldwide participating in Follow the Sun today, you are and will continue to be a powerful force at S&P Global. Thank you for your dedication and commitment to building a successful WINS organization that supports the development of women throughout S&P Global. Enjoy your event.
And we also have a welcome from Tara Campbell, who is the WINS Global President.
Hello, I'm Tara Campbell, your WINS Global President. Welcome to our 2018 Follow the Sun event. This annual event provides us the opportunity to think about our career success and the impact we want to make at S&P Global. Follow the Sun strives to bring out the best of WINS and all of us by building bridges across our ever-expanding global community. It's been an exciting year for WINS so far. We've delivered content-rich and impactful workshops across our regional networks, which are united by a common theme, powering our people to drive success. For part one, all regional networks will review and discuss a TED Talk from Reshma Sujani, founder of Girls Who Code, entitled Teach Girls Bravery, Not Perfection. Reshma has made it her mission to challenge young girls to be brave and take risks in their careers and technology. As I watch along with my WINS colleagues in New York today, I'll be asking myself how I can be brave in accepting opportunities and in my leadership of WINS. A very special thank you to Courtney Gedaldig for her sponsorship, to our Global Follow the Sun chairs, and to all our regional chairs and committees putting on events today. I hope you'll find inspiration in this year's event, as well as a sense of pride in the community that WINS continues to build each day.
And now our featured speaker, Kim Bimestefer. As at least some of you may know, she was our speaker a couple of years ago, and we're very, very happy to have her back. Since she was the speaker at that time, she has been appointed by Governor Hickenlooper to be the Executive Director of the Colorado Department of Health Care and Financing. So prior to that, she ran her own consulting company, helping organizations navigate the many changes facing the healthcare industry. She has been active in the Colorado Forum, the Colorado Concern, and the Colorado Women's Chamber. She served on many boards, including the Colorado Association of Health Plans, the Metro Denver Economic Development Corporation, the American Heart Association, and the Precious Child Advisory Board. And she's also chaired several community events, such as the American Cancer Society's CEOs Against Cancer. A warm welcome to Kim.
So good afternoon. Let's see if this reverberates around me. Yeah, we're good. So I have had 32 years in healthcare. I'm 52. And my success in healthcare is not just the result of some MBA or some undergrad or hard work. It's trying to learn the right lessons from what life throws at you. So I hope to share with you, if I get appointed by the governor, that's a pretty neat honor, right? That's pretty cool. But the path to get there, holy cow. I mean, some of the valleys were enough to just, you're literally driven to your knees. So I want to share some of those vulnerabilities. I'd like to invite you through this process to think back in your lifetime. They say over a period of life that you have about 7 very instrumental experiences, sometimes chapters. They're not like one event, 1 minute. Sometimes it's a whole chapter. And it's not necessarily the experience itself that changes who we are or drives us. It's how we react to it, how we respond to it. So I'm going to ask you, and there's a handout on your table, that you are welcome to take with you or do it as an exercise as a group at some future session that starts to challenge you, that really challenges what has happened to you in your life, how has that become part of your makeup, your DNA, your persona. How did you react? So why did those things become part of you? So did an experience make you bold? Did it make you want to fight? Did it teach you those lessons of standing up for yourself? Or did it make you a little timid, a little shy? Did it cause shame, guilt? Those things present in business. And what Wynn asked me to talk about is, how did I get here? What are the things that helped me get here to this spot of, when you think about a governor's cabinet, most people don't know how the government runs, but it's easier to picture the president. And the president, you see him appointing his cabinet members, very newsworthy. Well, each governor has the same thing. So there's an expert over energy, and there's somebody over transportation, and somebody has education. Well, I have the healthcare slice of the pie, which is $10.1 billion in spend for the state. It's a third of the state's government budget. In that position, I oversee Medicaid and the CHIP program. Medicaid is the healthcare program to low-income individuals, often folks who are going through very difficult chapters. So it's 1.277 million people in this state, 22% of the population. So it's a big job. But it also allows me to use some of these incredibly painful and vulnerable experiences to make me a far better leader and a far more diverse leader sitting on his cabinet than I otherwise would. So I'm going to challenge you to think about your own. Now, the younger you are, you haven't had the 7 yet. Hate to tell you, still on their way. Some of you are a little more seasoned, like I am, and you've had a bulk of them. Or at least you're hoping. Is this it? Right? I've already had all these, right? Am I supposed to make me real wise? Anyway, but I know there's still probably some coming. So with that as an overview, I want to share the first experience, and in each one of these I'm going to go through an experience, an initial result, the actions that I took, some life lessons from it, and then how it has influenced me as a business leader, and invite you to go through those same processes as you evaluate yourself. In the big picture, we are who we choose to be. We are the decisions we make. We are the habits we form. We are the attitude we have. It's nobody else. It's us. So let's think of that frame of mind, and here we go. So first one of 7, and I'll go through 4. First one, so when I was a little kid, lived in California, and my father was a rising executive. In that position, he had a little trouble dealing with stress. Kept him awake at night. Normal guy dealing with stress, goes to the doctor, he says, I can't sleep. The doctor says, take this to go to sleep at night, and take this to get up in the morning. And with those 2 sentences, take this to go to bed at night, and take this to go get up in the morning, addiction entered our family. Now that addiction caused our family to go from typical family little arguments and family stuff, 3 kids, mom and a dad, to violence, chaos, unpredictability. So I'm 7 and 8 years old. Now they say that those experiences that you have, elementary school and before, craft the bulk of who you are. So my dad ended up losing his job. We went from middle class to struggling I call it we went from bottles of milk to powdered milk. We had to sell our house. We had to leave our community. So I left security, my family and friends, my teachers, everything that I knew. My parents are shaken. I remember distinctly my mom sitting us down and saying, your father wants a divorce. It is more important now than it ever has been for you to go and hug him. Tell him you love him. Now I can tell you, as a little kid, he's getting more and more violent. The more violent he gets, the harder he has sleeping, the more Valium the doctor's given my father. The cycle just continued. It's horrible. This horrible time of fear and going from middle class to struggling, leaving the community, everything turned upside down. Now, over time, my dad, as he retired and I became the parent in our relationship, he would say to me, "Man, stress better than I did, Kim. You're an executive, manage stress better than I did." So there was lessons over time. But when I think about that little kid, they say that anger is a child's only defense. So when a kid is going through something that difficult, they can't control it. They're just little kiddos. There's nothing they can do. Angry children turn into angry adults. Scared children turned into scared adults. Bullies usually stay bullies. My brother followed my dad, bit of a bully. My sister was scared to death, still timid to this day. I fought everything. I still fight everything to this day. But that essence of that early experience was tremendous in who I became and who my siblings became. And here's 3 kids in the same exact circumstance with 3 completely different responses. So I would challenge you on that sheet that I passed around, what are those very young experiences that are framing who you are? And when you are struggling to succeed or struggling in life, what is that consistent theme of behavior or thoughts or self-beliefs that resonate inside you that become that characterization, that persona that's holding you back? Because all of us have them. Brene Brown is a very famous author. She does a lot of TED Talks. I have listened to a lot of her. Part of what makes a good leader is being vulnerable. Now, as I take that experience, and I want to teach you, turn your scars into stars. That's your job. When we go through life, and these are our chapters, nobody else's chapters, these are our chapters, you have the opportunity to turn every one of those experiences that's painful, that scar, into a star. So today, I didn't know when I'm this high I'm going to be on the governor's cabinet over Medicaid. You know what I have? A whole lot of little kiddos. 42% of Medicaid is kiddos. How adorable is that? But they're also children in difficult circumstances. How many moms and dads are addicted? Those kiddos were growing up in that environment. Very difficult circumstances, low-income families, hard circumstances, schools that aren't good enough, all those things. To bring the knowledge that I have, the experiences that I have, turn the scar into star and start trying to help. In my role, so that circumstance that my dad went through is very similar. What's the crisis going on right now in Colorado and around the country? It's very similar to what I just described. What have doctors have overprescribed? Opioids. Opioids. At the height of the opioid crisis, there were enough pill bottles with 30 pills in them across the country to have one 30-pill supply of addictive painkiller narcotics to be in every single household in this country. That's how much we overprescribed. Now, I think of my dad, all he did was listen to the doctor, take this to go to bed at night, take this to get up in the morning. He didn't know. That's exactly what's going on now, except the addictive quality of opioids is even higher. So to be able to take this scar that I have, turn it into a star, we had a very difficult circumstance. Right now, when addiction drives you to your knees, you end up on Medicaid. So our family, right? You lose your job, you maybe get a divorce. So my mom and dad made it, we made it. But many people get a divorce. So moms with kids and dads over there and addicted, now mom's trying to raise kids, she doesn't have enough money, right? Come through Medicaid. So we've released a program, it's called Lift the Label. Lift the Label's fabulous, tries to teach people, hey, raise your hand when you need help. This has happened to 1 in 5, 1 in 6, 1 in 7, depending on where you are in Colorado, families that are affected by this. So I've tried to use this to be a speaker at various press conferences. So, you know, talk about being vulnerable. I had 100 cameras out there and the governor's speaking and you can do this, telling very personal stories to give people the courage to raise your hand to. Happens to all of us. To use this platform to be vulnerable, to turn the scar into star, and to do that. I would invite you to do the same thing, to say, what has happened to me? How can I change the way that I react? How can I bring that value to others? How can I turn that scar into a star and make myself who I want? Now again, 3 siblings, 3 very different circumstances. My sister and brother have very different results. My sister still struggles with having the confidence to act out and to fight and to say this isn't right and to protect herself. To this day, she's 5 years older than I am. Probably my partner and she are the most important people in my life, but trying to help her get over that crisis of where we were when we were little kids. It's a lifelong experience. When we look at how powerful those young experiences are and how they craft us, again, in my position, I get to sit next to the guy who runs the Department of Corrections, just like I run Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing. He's got corrections. You can predict in each state how many people are going into corrections by the 3rd grade test scores. You look out 20 years, that's how powerful what I just said is. You can do your whole budget 20 years from now based on the behavior, the delinquency, the reading levels, the incomes of 3rd graders. That's how powerful this is. You're no exception. Study it. We are who we hope to be, and you're not going to get to everywhere that you can be unless you understand why you're reacting and those very deep-seated experiences you have. So study that in, elementary school and below. So one of the life lessons is not just to turn the scars into stars, but this is something that I have always said and will continue to say. It's a prayer. May we walk in the grace of our own amazing beauty, the grace of our angels, and the grace of God, and may we allow others the same grace. That, I want you to think about the politics that I'm in right now. So, one of the examples. When, as I said, when addiction brings you to your knees, you end up on Medicaid, and you think about addiction. I didn't realize this, because most of you are covered by commercial plans, right? You have a good job. Medicaid does not cover today inpatient treatment for somebody who is addicted, has a substance abuse disorder. Does anybody know that? Can you raise your hand like me if you didn't know that? Holy cow. So, I was 32 years in commercial side. I was president of Cigna. I built a $10 billion business inside healthcare. I'm pretty good at this healthcare thing. I had no idea, because it was so natural to have inpatient services for those who need it when you're in commercial coverage. So middle class and well off that have a job get services, but Medicaid doesn't. So this little kiddo roars out, says, this ain't right. Lots of arguments. We passed a bill. The governor signed it in May to provide June, one of the last days of the session, whenever that last day was, that we, effective about 18 months from now, will have inpatient services for Medicaid for substance abuse disorder at the price tag of about $177 million. So let's get a little applause for that. And when those discussions are going on, it can become pretty heated. It's $177 million. Am I going to spend it for this or that? And somebody has to rise up and be the voice. And I chose to rise up and be the voice for these little kiddos because I'd been there. And if I hadn't been there, I wouldn't have the same passion about, whoa, why this is so important. And to be able to say with business acumen, whether you wear your heart on your sleeve, trying to do the right thing. Why shouldn't everybody, when it brings to knees, have the same healthcare support? Versus my financial hat on, if we handle this and help families get out of the circumstance, you are saving money for years from now, just like that 3rd-year-old kid, and we can assume correction. So be able to use your insights, your gifts, your scars, and at the same time, consistently have that prayer. May we walk in the grace of our own amazing beauty, the grace of our angels and the grace of God, and may we allow others the same grace. Be able to look at them, it's not just them, it's us, right? All of us, to give everybody the same grace. Okay, that's one memory. Drive the results you want, become the person you want, use those experiences, drive it into your next leadership position. Do neat things like passing laws that help other people. So the next one. So my partner, Sarah, woman, hello. 20 years in a relationship next year, yay, it's pretty cool. So meeting that person and being with them 19 years now, 20 next year, celebration, that's pretty cool where I am now at 52. It was not always so cool. Gay kids, so if you're a person of color and you're not the same color as everybody else in your classroom or going up through high school, you can come home and talk to your parents who are usually the same color and get some support. If you're a kid that doesn't celebrate Christmas and everybody else is celebrating Christmas, usually go home to your parents, talk about the religion that you have, and find terms and strength from that same common community in your family. Gay kids don't have anywhere to go. My generation of gay kids, there was no Ellen on TV. It was not fashionable. Wasn't at all. It was terrifying. So the typical gay person has more addiction, more depression, higher suicide. Transgender community right now, suicides is off the charts. Off the charts. They have nobody to turn to. It's only like 0.5% of the population, like such a small percent of the community that there is nobody in their community they can see, even when they get older. You're a gay kid, you can hide. Hide behind your clothes, hide behind everything else. You're a transgender kid, it starts to present. Outgoing, really hard community. So when I think about those incredibly difficult experiences, I can remember my mom finding a note in my pocket and her sitting me down and saying, "You cannot tell your father. You cannot tell your," okay. So we had a secret for years. And then I got called home. I was 25, and there was a family meeting called, and I was the only person invited. You know what? When you get invited to a family meeting and you are the only, you know what the subject matter is? It's you. Oh. So I know what's coming. I've got my own home. I don't live with my parents anymore. They call me home. My father sits me down, and I was so sick that whole day because I knew it was coming. My sister, again, is older, 5 years older, and she was kicked out of the family for marrying a guy that my father didn't like. You only wish I was marrying a guy you didn't like, right? So here I get called home. I know what's coming. I'm so nauseous because I know I'm about to get kicked out of my family. My father asked me if I'm gay. I said yes. I drew him a little picture. I said I'm an aunt, I'm a Christian, I'm an athlete, I'm an MBA student, I'm a employee, I'm a daughter, I am many things. Can you just take this one slice of the pie? He said, that slice of the pie is like a piece of shit and vanilla ice cream. It ruins the whole thing. I said, you make a choice. You're gay or you have our family. Stood up, I picked up the kitchen table and I said, F you, I choose me. Turned over the table. Poof. Bad reaction. Bad reaction. Grace prayer. May you walk in the grace of your own amazing beauty, the grace of the angels, and the grace of God, may you allow others the same grace. Now, it took me about 12 years to accept myself. 12 years of trying to figure out the difference between the stereotype, who I was, the Bible, who I was. My father asked me a question, I gave him an answer, he had a reaction, and I gave him 12 seconds to do what it took me 12 years of studying. And I made an enormous mistake. Enormous mistake. I was the one that had the education. I was the one who knew who I was. And I didn't take the time to accept and gently come back, and gently come back. I reacted with emotion. In my life's journey, whenever I've reacted with emotion or anger, especially in business, it has had negative consequences. One of our challenges, especially as women, is take the emotion, check it at the door. When you come into work, as hard as it is, take the emotion. Vulnerability is good. But the overreaction with emotion almost always has negative consequences. I didn't give my father the same grace that I wanted from everybody else. Now, worse, if you have a catastrophic error, catastrophic. During that period of time, so there was a separation between me and my dad. It was 15 years. Not 15 minutes, 15 years. And I kept coming back. Love me yet? Really ugly. This was hard. Really ugly. But over a period of time, starting to wear him down. He's starting to realize it's just his child that's like this. We got to a place where almost there, and my mother died. The catastrophic consequences of how I reacted that day, not giving him grace and helping along the way, caused a separation, not just between me and my dad, but me and my mom. And then she died. And then she died. Want to talk about permanence? Over, no more chances, out of time, and then she died. The consequences of that, beyond words that can express it. Now let's transfer that into business. My mom made a decision to stay with my father, and I looked at it as a personal offense. You're not supporting me. Here's the grace and here's the understanding that I didn't give her. Not everybody has the same level of courage. Now, how does that present in business? I'm a risk taker. I am moving. I didn't build a $10 billion business because I did things that everybody did yesterday. I built a $10 billion business by doing things different than people did yesterday. And there were two things that I needed to recognize all in my life when I'm building businesses and I'm doing things differently. One, I could be contrarian to somebody's values in business. Two, I need to bring them along and help them through change. In my own personal experience, in that LGBT experience, my mother had a value. The husband comes first. The husband was disagreeing with the daughter. She needed to align with the husband. That was her value. And I'm going to transfer that and put it into business, that same value concept, how powerful it is. So now I'm healthcare policy and financing, and I've got 30% of the state's budget, $10 billion. And every dime that I consume inefficiently is not going to roads and schools and helping those kiddos to get a better life, to help them get prepared so they're not in corrections down the road. So in order for us to have the money, broadband in rural areas, whatever it is to help people rise, I've got to be more efficient. So I want you to think the values of people inside healthcare policy and finance. The people in those areas, government, you get paid less, you got to do more, and stuff is really important. You are setting policy for the state, something. You're driving, taking care of people that really need you. So I walked in with 32 years of corporate experience, and I'm an insurance executive that the governor has said, get in there and shake that up. Okay, he hired a risk taker, and I was very clear with him. You want stuff that was happening yesterday, do not hire me. It's not what I do. You want me to change things, you want me to improve them, that's what I do. That's what I want, boom, here we go. So I come in as the insurance executive. Now I'm going to give you a story that tells you how people reacted to this. So the other day, I get in an Uber. And I'm in the car, we're going fine, going down the street, and I think my Uber driver's going to miss the turn up there. He's supposed to turn left, and he's over in the right-hand lane. And he's got one of those earpieces that they often have, that listen into directions, whatever. So I lean up and I tap him on the shoulder. Buddy. He overreacts. We go across the left into traffic. He overcorrects. We go back across traffic, up onto the sidewalk, back into the street. I have been thrown back from buddy to back in the back seat. My life has flashed before my eyes. He corrects himself. He's back in the street again. Dude, what was that? He says, I'm really sorry, ma'am. This was my first day as an Uber driver, but 31 years I drove a Hearst. Okay, so what is your Uber driver experience? When somebody taps you on the shoulder, when do you go, phew, right? When do you say, shit? When do you get really scared and overreact? You know when healthcare policy and financing employees get really scared? When an insurance executive comes in, and what they perceive as threatening the passion of protecting people who need protection. So I come in and I say, we're going to have to save money. And they think that means you're going to put kiddos onto the street. You're going to harm us. You're the insurance industry. Don't make me an insurance carrier. That's evil. I'm not that. I was threatening their values. To drive leadership in your position, the first thing you need to recognize, to drive success as a manager, what are the core values that you're stepping into? And as you drive positive change, it is critical that you understand what it is that, why are they there? What are their core beliefs? What have they been taught? Who do they serve? And as you're changing and driving those leadership differences, right? Because to make change to be successful, you want more of the same, do what they did yesterday. And there will not be success. If you want success, you have to do something different than yesterday. That's defined as change. Now, you've got to go up against those barriers. Values? I've always done it that way. I've always done that way. When I think about my LGBT experience, I went at my mother's values, and I expected her to have mine. I expected her to have them immediately. The difference between that 25-year-old and this 50-year-old coming into healthcare policy and financing is to make sure that in this leadership role, they know how this helps and supports them in wanting to do what they wanted to do. So if I could say to them, when we save this money, we will with passion go to the elected officials and say, if we use it and divert it to this, it helps people rise. If I went in and just said we need to save money, boom, values back against us. In every experience you have, personal and professional, to drive it, that scar into a star, to drive that experience to make you a better leader, the difference in me recognizing whether I'm driving change based on the values or not is the difference between success and failure. Now, we've taken a department inside healthcare policy and financing by working within their core values and have everybody on board trying to find every efficiency they can to help the little kiddos rise, to serve more people, to get people off waiting lists, to help the most disabled rise by working within their core values. When you take each one of your experiences growing up and you're writing down those 7 that have made you who you are, how can you use where you've made your critical mistakes and drive it into being 10 times that better leader because you recognize a mistake? If I didn't look back and analyze, what did I do wrong? When I stood up, turned the table over on my dad and said, I choose me. Okay, that's fine, confidence is good. I didn't give him grace. I didn't give him time. I didn't recognize their values. I didn't help them see how maybe dealing with me differently could support their Christian values versus where they came from. Now, down the road, for 15 years, 20 years, 30 years later, my partner Sarah became my father's best friend. Hilarious. She'd be on the phone having intimate conversations with somebody. I'm like, who are you talking to? Your father. What? What? The beauty of that migration, breathtaking. The horror in the middle was unnecessary, and I contributed to the horror. To be able to learn from that, bring it into business, help you evolve, help the individuals going through the experiences was all the difference in the world. Let's go through the last 2 together. So here I am at Cigna. I've built these 2 businesses, $10 billion. I raised my hand to move, so those are 50 states I'm serving. Raised my hand to take a job in Colorado. It's the last place office in the country. Merger with Great West hadn't gone well in 2008, 9, 10, 11, last place. I raised my hand coming in 2012 and say, I'll take that job. I'll turn that around. Neat opportunity. So coming off big success in one division job, company says, yeah, you go fix that. I come in, fabulous. Turn it around. We go from underperforming to national leading. We go from sleepy to industry leading. We go from brand sort of known to top rated brand. Everything that we're doing really, really did well. And I'm flying high. Company's treating me well. Everything's going fabulous. Another little notch on my resume building. Then the merger comes along. This side of the company says, go do this, really important to us. And I check those things off, do what I'm told, good leader. Merger comes along, somebody else comes in, calls me in on a Saturday and said, you shouldn't have been doing that. That's campaigning. That's against where we should be. People could vote against the merger. You're fired. Top of my game. 2 months before, I got a raise of 15%, high bonuses. I'm all that. A few months later, terminated. I don't have kids. My legacy will be left in my professional career. My sister, Sarah, intimate family and friends, who I help rise. Outside of my sister and Sarah and my really close family and friends, most all my relationships, my contributions, my legacy, my perceived self-worth, it's my work, drove me to my knees. I hired 2 executive counselors coaches, and a grief counselor. That's how I needed every day. Every day I had to walk a walk of how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to deal with this? Every day I went into the community to network to try to figure out, oh, this is what this feels like. This is what merger politics feels like. Oh, the grace of, holy cow, what do I do with this? To get myself up off my knees. Now, that period of time walking every single day, trying to say grateful prayers, they teach you, you cannot have grace and gratefulness coexist with anger. It cannot coexist. So in those hardest times of your life, when you are able to say, I am thankful for my health, I am thankful for my partner, I am thankful for this day, I am thankful that I can pay for my bills, I am thankful for who I am, I'm thankful for that I'm a fighter. What are all those things? They cannot coexist with the anger that's coming over you. My problem was 2 seconds after I stopped the grateful, the anger came in. And what did I just say? You cannot make good decisions in anger. You cannot make good decisions in anger. That process of being able to recover from that was critical. Now, I'm down at my knees, I'm trying to get myself back up, and my father's having a really difficult time with this because he lost several jobs. So he's pushing his own feelings, thinking I'm going through what he is. I'm not going through what you are, I'm dealing with it, but I'm having a hard time, but I'm not going through what you are. No matter what I said, I couldn't get him to the right place. So I have my own company, I'm consulting, I'm doing some good things, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, I'm figuring out, I'm trying to be prayerful and grateful and all those good things. And I checked my voicemail on a Monday. It's Monday, January 8th, 2017, 18 or so months ago. Hi, Kim, it's Daddy. I've started the proceedings to end my life here on Earth. I'm sorry to put this on you, but you'll have to do our taxes. I miss Mommy. It's been 13 years. I don't want to be here without Mommy anymore. I know you don't believe me, but my mind isn't the same. I couldn't even tell time this morning. I'm in pain. I can't walk. I can't hear. I don't want to be here anymore. Sorry to leave this on you. Don't forget, bring a key. It's snowing and raining here, and well, I'll be out of it by then. Love you. Love you. Love you. Daddy. Poof. There are some experiences, it's no way that words can properly communicate what that did. I'm down in a valley that I never knew could be deeper. I was wrong. I was wrong. Now, pull that up. Pull that up. What do? Something that happened to me. What's my reaction? The initial reaction, incredible grief. Incredible grief. Indescribable grief. Self-blame. What could I have done? What did I miss? All the things that I missed. I came home September, November, December. He took his life on January 7th. Are you kidding me? Such blame. Now, that was January. It was October. I got a text. Send me your resume. I'll explain later. I've got my own company. I'm doing my grateful prayers. I'm trying to do everything I can to cope. I send back, who are you? Lieutenant Governor Donnellan. Shit. Sorry, sister. I'm on the road. I'll give you a day. Okay. Now, that began the conversations. When Donna was president of Kaiser, I was president of Cigna. While we were fierce competitors, the essence of who we both were was to rise above that and to help people, to do what's right. She knew me there. I knew her. There was a panel that I was moderating. She was on it. She was moderating. I was on it. Cable show, it's her and me. We didn't know each other well, but we knew who we were. Those higher values that we kept that whole time resonated with each other. Now, in this job today, my father was a veteran. Very important to me, the military. Veterans are 8% of the population and 14% of the suicides. That's more than 50% higher than everybody else. You know what I get to do in my role? Help people, prevent. And there's a very different side of me because of that experience that I've had. Can I turn this scar into a star and help take some of this savings and put it towards that to help people be stronger? I'm an innovator. I wasn't as focused on seniors. Seniors now in my role in Colorado, we will have about a 500,000 seniors increase over a 20-year period. Between 2010 and 2017, the number of seniors in the state increased by 43%. The rest of the population increased by 43 to 14. Between 2017 and 2030, that population will increase by about another 60%. The 50s used to live less than 80. Now we've got 7.5% of the population living over 85. You get over 85 and your brain, between 83 and 84, starts to process cognitively differently, very differently. I know that because I studied where my father was after. I was studying it before. I had my own business and I was trying to figure out how to invest in seniors. Here my father is having these thoughts and I'm meeting with investors to try to figure out how do we build this thing. And I missed it. Okay, can't dwell on that. Scars into stars. How do we make this better for the next family? Patients, right here in Colorado. John Kelly, CEO of a company called Seroscan. Seroscan is the most advanced nuclear imaging that is finding and helping diagnose that that is not Alzheimer's, which is 26% of the time diagnosed incorrectly. That is an injury that you had in the military, or a fall, or a car accident where your head hit the windshield and this sloshed back here, and that is now permanently damaged and it doesn't cognitively. How do you take now a focus of a scar that has you so upset and turn it into how can I become so educated on this that in my role I can turn it into how do we help others not go through what I've been through? How do we get the next generation of digital tools that help families understand where mom and dad are? That's what I'm working on right now in innovation. I hired somebody to say, you, Bonnie, come in here. What are we doing with seniors? Well, we're thinking about it. Stop thinking about getting ready to get ready. I want a job description posted by the end of the next week. We're going to attack this. We're going to lead this. We're going to partner with this. To take the scar and to turn it into everything that you don't want the pain to hit somebody else. There's not a whole lot harder than suicide. There really isn't. And in our leadership experiences, how do we take those experiences when we're little, addiction, middle, LGBT, older, merger job loss, horrifying, suicide, all throughout your life? What are the lessons you learn? Does the DNA, the person you become, the essence of who you are, become angry, bitter, fearful, bully? What is it? Or is it, I'm going to analyze this. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to help other people rise. I'm going to turn that scar into a star. I'm going to choose the reaction that I have that makes me a better leader, makes me a better person, makes me a better partner. Now you might look up here and you see somebody who's, I'm in Forbes, one of the 7 best women leaders on the West. How cool is that? Most powerful woman in healthcare, 2015 here in Colorado. 25 most powerful whatever is in women's chamber. Lots of neat little things, appointed by the governor in the field of your expertise. That's pretty damn cool. But if you look at the things that have happened to me, I could have been that other person who's dealing with those hardships in a very different way. My invitation to you is to recognize we're all going to go through very difficult circumstances, to be vulnerable, to recognize them, do everything you can to have grace for those that don't agree, whether right now I'm appointed by the governor, he's a Democrat, I'm a Democrat. I have right to the right, I have red to the right and blue to the left. If I don't have that graceful prayer of accepting and hearing and understanding and trying to find compromise, to do the best thing, to do the right thing, if I use that hurt to turn into anger, to be so angry at the people that don't support substance abuse for those who are struggling, or support for the little kiddos, or the LGBT community, or veterans and suicide, I can't get things done. To check the emotion, to bring in the logic, to have grace where other people are in their journey, to recognize their values, to respect them intimately, and to find that place where as leaders, we can respect, move forward, and help and turn every single scar that we have into a star to make us better people, not angry people, better people, not bitter people. And in this time of 3 weeks before an election, we have such bad examples of leadership. We can choose to be different. We can choose to have grace, to turn our scars into stars, to be better leaders, to be better people, to set that example, to be everything that we are meant to be. Now, when you look at the handouts, should be maybe a front and a back, it might be stapled. On here in the top is life lessons. These are some of the things that resonate with me. So it's the graceful prayer that I read to you is the first one. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. Those gifts, right? To give it away. Pablo Picasso, very cool. Choose a job you love, and you'll never have to work a day in your life, Confucius. Grief, I've learned, is really just love. It's all the love you want to give but cannot. All the unspent love that gathers up at the corners of your eyes and the lump in your throat, and in that hollow part of your chest. Grief is just love with no place to go. I can tell you I've lived that. Most of us have. Be the change in the world that you wish to see. Mahatma Gandhi. My challenge to you is, what are those 3 or 4 things that you sort of said, that's my beacon. That's who I want to be. That's who I'm going to overcome with grace. I'm going to overcome understanding grief. I'm going to choose those things that are important to me. I'm going to take those gifts in my job and give it away. What are those things that resonate with you? Own them, find them, become them. I gave you my life lessons here. Some of the things that matter. It's not what happens to us that matters. It's the choices that we make that define us. That's who we become. It's the paths we choose. It's our character, our choices. We define who we are, not our life circumstances. The second one, easy times are not what define you. Easy times are not what make you. We sail along through easy times with little growth. It is the catastrophic challenges and the choices we make through them that define us. It is when we are truly tested that we have the opportunity to rise, to truly grow, to transition into the next best chapter of ourself. The scars into stars. Through the difficulty, remember to be thankful for the opportunity, to be faithful and grateful. You cannot have the coexistence of anger with gratefulness. You wouldn't even be aware or open to the most amazing opportunities if you didn't get hit by the 2x4 that knocked you off your track. If I hadn't been knocked off my track at Cigna, I wouldn't be sitting here appointed by the governor. They wouldn't even have thought of me, and I wouldn't have thought of them. Will is incredibly powerful. It moves doubt into faith and fear into hope. I choose to fight back. I choose to fight back. I choose to seek help. I choose to raise my hand to seek help. I choose to have the will to battle through to make my own destiny. I choose to have faith. I choose to believe in God. I choose to know there's a purpose and a plan that helps me through the hard times. That's what I choose. I choose to be worthy. We are worthy. We choose to be worthy. We choose to be loved. Second to last one, I choose to know my strengths, to know who I am, to take assessments to know who I am, and to make sure that I'm taking the right job. Governor, don't put me there if you don't want me to drive change. That's not who I am. Know who you are. Drive for what you want. Show others grace. On the back, I give you just some morning rituals that I use to sort of keep me centered. It's going to be okay. There's a plan. There's purpose. Those are, you make your own morning rituals. I'm sharing with you my morning rituals. The first one is open the doors I'm supposed to go through and close the doors I'm not. Open the doors I'm supposed to go through and close the doors I'm not. With that, I would invite you to do the self-study on your own. Start listing your significant experiences, the actions you took, the lessons you learned, the good and the bad, and the impact to you as a leader. And you drive for what you want. You deserve everything that you should be. I want you to be your authentic self. I want you to be as successful as your dreams could ever envision. And with that, I'll say thank you and invite any questions.
I had a question. What's your best tool that you're using when you're dealing with anger?
Diffuse. I diffuse. So I am so sorry you feel that way. I am so sorry that I have said anything that made you feel that way. That was not my intention. Been across from many hospitals, many elected officials who are personally taking what I'm doing to invite, I'm so sorry that anything I've said has made you feel that way. I have a couple of books. One is Strengths-Based Leadership, In the back of the book, you don't have to read the book. In the back, there's a code. You can take the assessment in 40 minutes. It gives you your strengths. And it teaches you, you can read the chapters about those strengths, and it teaches you who you are. So when you're driving for positions, play off your strengths. Strengths-based leadership is one option you can choose from. The second one is Dr. Terry Wahls. I lost 30 pounds. Part of being strong is feeling good about who you are and actually having energy. So I feed myself what it needs. I feed my body what it needs. It can fight disease. I haven't been sick since 2014. Works. It's hard, no sugar, but except for wine. Don't take away my wine or dark chocolate or we will have a fight. But Dr. Terry Wahls got herself out of a wheelchair with that book. So those who ask questions, you can have one of those books or, again, the Wahls Protocol to improve your health or strengths-based leadership. Which one would you like?
I'll take the one with the test.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, with that I'll say thank you. And, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Brown. Oh, you mentioned Brene
Brene Brown.
Brown. How did she change some of the your outlook on life kind of thing? I think I sensed throughout your speech that there was some change there. I think.
She you know, as I said, my sister got vulnerable. I was a fighter. Vulnerability is not who I am as a leader. It just changed the way that it's okay. Also, I grew up where there weren't a lot of women leaders. Men are not vulnerable in their leadership style. I've adopted over the years, vulnerability is good. It's just fine. It actually makes people far more trusting and helps me to explain and get people behind, help bring them along, which is a very important leadership trait when they can see my passion more so than just my facts. Yeah, she's been very influential. Perfect Imperfections, one of the books that I read of her. I've listened to all of her TED Talks. Yeah. Oh, which do you want? Same one? Okay. I think she wants this one. Anything else? Yes.
I was wondering how you deal with ultimatums. You talked a lot about like showing people grace and meeting them on their own turf, but what do you do when someone says, this is my stance and it's never going to change no matter what?
So the one example I gave you, I did not deal with that well. Did not deal with that well. I've decided not to bang my head against the wall on folks that are not ready to change. One of the lessons in the discussion that I just had was being patient with people as they come along in their own journey. The example I gave was, I gave my dad 12 seconds. He gave me an ultimatum because he wasn't there yet. People evolve at their own pace. So in the ultimatums, I step back and ask for their grace and ask for them to just stay with me, at least have the conversation. And a good example of that is when I give my political donations in healthcare, I give to the people that even disagree with me, because it's more important to me that they're engaged than they actually agree. Because as long as they're engaged and we're conversing, we can get to a reasonable compromise and an outcome. It's when they don't engage and there's an ultimatum that we fall apart as a society, whether it's in our family, our friends, our significant other, politics, work. So I try to deal with an ultimatum of, I hear your piece, can we just please keep talking? And I get more gentle, not more harsh, because again, the anger has never gotten me to the right place. What are your thoughts on that?
That helps a lot, actually.
Okay. Which would you like?
Oh,
None of you are getting healthier while we're sitting here, I'll tell you that. Any last one back there?
You touched on a change within the workplace and how there's a lot of resistance, especially, for example, whenever you went in and people didn't like that. You also touched on resonating with the core values and kind of having people understand that. And I guess my question to you is, how long do people resist on change in an organization, and how do you deal with that whenever you're not even a manager, you're just a colleague?
So I have a saying that when I drive change, and again, to to be successful, you can't do what they did yesterday, so, right? It is a form of change. So everything from, oh, thank God, right? That's reaction, to next best thing. It is about time. To, who do you think you are? And the worst, who moved my cheese, right? So everybody read the book, Who Moved My Cheese? Okay. Somewhere in here is where everybody is in their journey. And my mantra is you got to keep pounding the same messages, because there will be people that never change. I have people in the government 36 years doing the same job. I'm not going to change them. But if I can start with 30%, keep moving it past 50%, keep moving it past, that's the best you can hope for. So if you are in a position not of leadership, to sit down with those around you to say, what is the path that we're going to do to drive the change, which is as important as the innovation or the idea that you're trying to push through. It is as important. And as a young person, I thought people were just against me. It's a conspiracy. No, they just had other things to do, and they were really important too. And we weren't doing a good job of driving change. So thank you for asking that. And you've got to work with your colleagues to say, okay, we know what we want to do. Now let's spend just as much time on how we're going to do it. And that's going to drive the success with you. Bring them all in. One of my sayings is, no is not no, it's an opportunity to pull more people in the room to find your way to yes. You got to pull more people in the room to find your way to yes, especially when you're in the middle. Really important. And it will drive the success. We done? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Which do you want? The book you wrote. No, I didn't write it, but it's my cousin who wrote it. Yeah, there you go.
Hi, I've listened to you speak twice now, and I know how important your father was to you in your life, and so as most of our fathers are to us, at least to women. How did you deal with the fact of how he chose to end his life, and how are you overcoming that?
I don't think you ever overcome it. It becomes part of who you are. First, you just have to breathe, then walk, then try to cope, hear. Literally couldn't hear. The process has been, I call my uncle now more. My uncle is so angry. He said, Kim, when I see your father in heaven, I'm going to punch him in the nose. They were this older brother, and they were just, protected each other, but fought as well. Part of the way that I cope is try to help others avoid it. That's part of where the stress goes. But I'll tell you, one is just, I talk to him. I know that sounds a little crazy, but there have been some times in the last year where I just went down in the basement where I have this, this was another coping. I have a big memorabilia wall, stuff from my mother and my father. And when things are really hard, I'll hold something from my mother and something from my father and just cry and talk to them. They're not here, but I can talk to them, and things become clearer when I'm not in a place of stress. I'm just with them and asking for help. And that's one of the coping mechanisms. I've adopted another set of surrogate parents. My partner Sarah's surrogate. We've lost all of our parents now. But we have an older couple. They're African American. They are just fabulous. And Sarah's been close to them all her life. I've gotten close with them in the last 20 years. But they have become somebody that's gotten a lot more attention and love, because we have so much love to give them that grief, that's looking for a place to go to give it to somebody who truly appreciates it. But a ton of prayer is probably the most important thing to just help me through that pain. Try to forgive myself for the things that I didn't notice. And then I never was mad at him. That's one of the things you've got to get through. I never was mad at him. But I was upset at myself for not finding a way to help him cope. To raise his hand and say, I can't tell time this morning, versus making the decision. I missed your mom, versus making that decision. He was this 84-year-old guy. It wasn't his way. He's an airborne ranger. Wasn't that way. Just try to forgive me. I never had to forgive him, but understand better what he did. Which one? What's this? Oh. Which one? Yep. Okay. Are we done? Or you want to? I'll leave it to you.
Are there any more questions?
Okay, there are 3 more of each of these if you want to grab one before you go, and thank you very much again. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
And I think lunch is being set up, so we'll go ahead and have some food. Thank you.
Okay, if everybody could get their dessert, there's tons of dessert, so don't miss out on that. But we're going to come back to our tables for part 2 of today's activities. And we're going to watch a short TED Talk. It's about 10, 12 minutes long. It's by Reshma Sujani. She's the founder of Girls Who Code. And she says here, we're raising our girls to be perfect, and we're raising our boys to be brave. So she's taken up the charge to socialize young girls to take risks and learn to program. There's 2 skills that they need to move society forward. And she says, to truly innovate, we cannot leave behind half of our population. So in this TED Talk, Teach Girls Bravery, Not Perfection, we'll watch that. And then at each of your tables, you have too many pieces of paper here. A list of table discussion topics. So after the video, we're going to ask the table hosts or the table leads to lead your group in a discussion of these 3 questions. And we won't come back to read out, but we will just allow you about 10 minutes to have that discussion. But before we go to the TED Talk, I just want to ask you one question, and this is group participation here. So think about who in your mind at S&P Global, whether it's at the corporate level or within one of your divisions, is someone that you would describe as brave in their leadership and ability to power our people to drive success. So don't think about it too hard, but is there just one person or a group that just immediately pops to your mind as being emblematic of that? Oh, that's not good. I know there are. Come on. You say it out loud, raise your hand, I'll let you. There you go.
So what I've seen so far is for ratings division, for our COO, Tina Morris, I find her to be very brave and she's very forward thinking. So that's one person I see in our leadership.
So I'll speak from my own experience. My boss, she's the COO of Platt, Sue Avenir, and she's always pushing me to be brave and be more out there. I'm kind of an introvert, and I would just as soon work behind the scenes and not necessarily be up here talking to all you. But she's like, you got to get out there. She's like, okay, we're going to make a video about lean, and we're going to make a video about this. I'm like, do we have to? Well, but I would say she's pushing me and the people who report to her in the operations group is to really be brave and power our success and think differently. Anyone else?
Well, Carolyn is my manager, and she was the one that I was going to say. And it's funny because it shows that your manager is carving that path for you, pushing you, because you've only been here about 1.5 years now, and you're so up on what the company does. And in fact, she was quizzing me on my weekly meetings to see if I was reading up on all these emails we get. And but I just think you're wonderful. You empower me. You have got. If you're an introvert, I couldn't tell.
I really am, but I can fake it sometimes. So thank you, and I'll pay you later. have all the desserts you want. Anyone else that I didn't pay? No? Okay. Well, with that, just think about it a little bit more to yourself, because those might be people you'd also want to emulate in your life. But with that, we're going to go ahead and start the TED Talk.
So a few years ago, I did something really brave, or some would say, really stupid. I ran for Congress. For years, I had existed safely behind the scenes in politics, as a fundraiser, as an organizer, but in my heart, I always wanted to run. The sitting congresswoman had been in my district since 1992. She had never lost a race, and no one had really even run against her in a Democratic primary. But in my mind, this was my way to make a difference, to disrupt the status quo. The polls, however, told a very different story. My pollsters told me that I was crazy to run, that there was no way that I could win. But I ran anyway. And in 2012, I became an upstart in a New York City congressional race. I swore I was going to win. I had the endorsement from the New York Daily News, the Wall Street Journal snapped pictures of me on Election Day, and CNBC called it one of the hottest races in the country. I raised money from everyone I knew, including Indian aunties that were just so happy an Indian girl was running. But on Election Day, the polls were right, and I only got 19% of the vote. And the same papers that said I was a rising political star now said I wasted $1.3 million on 6,321 votes. Don't do the math. It was humiliating. Now, before you get the wrong idea, this is not a talk about the importance of failure, nor is it about leaning in. I tell you the story of how I ran for Congress because I was 33 years old, and it was the first time in my entire life that I had done something that was truly brave, where I didn't worry about being perfect. And I'm not alone. So many women I talk to tell me that they gravitate towards careers and professions that they know they're going to be great in, that they know they're going to be perfect in. And it's no wonder why. Most girls are taught to avoid risk and failure. They're taught to smile pretty, play it safe, get all A's. Boys, on the other hand, are taught to play rough, swing high, crawl to the top of the monkey bars, and then just jump off head first. And by the time they're adults, and whether they're negotiating a raise or even asking someone out on a date, they're habituated to take risk after risk. They're rewarded for it. It's often said in Silicon Valley, no one even takes you seriously unless you've had 2 failed startups. In other words, we're raising our girls to be perfect, and we're raising our boys to be brave. Some people worry about our federal deficit, but I worry about our bravery deficit. Our economy, our society, we're just losing out because we're not raising our girls to be brave. The bravery deficit is why women are underrepresented in STEM, in C-suites, in boardrooms, in Congress, and pretty much everywhere you look. In the 1980s, psychologist Carol Dweck looked at how bright 5th graders handled an assignment that was too difficult for them. She found that bright girls were quick to give up. The higher the IQ, the more likely they were to give up. Bright boys, on the other hand, found the difficult material to be a challenge. They found it energizing. They were more likely to redouble their efforts. What's going on? Well, at the 5th grade level, girls routinely outperform boys in every subject, including math and science. So it's not a question of ability. The difference is in how boys and girls approach a challenge. And it doesn't just end in 5th grade. An HP report found that men will apply for a job if they meet only 60% of the qualifications. But women? Women will apply only if they meet 100% of the qualifications. 100%. This study is usually invoked as evidence that, well, women need a little more confidence. But I think it's evidence that women have been socialized to aspire to perfection, and they're overly cautious. And even when we're ambitious, even when we're leaning in, that socialization of perfection has caused us to take less risks in our careers. And so those 600,000 jobs that are open right now in computing and tech, women are being left behind. And it means our economy is being left behind on all the innovation and problems women would solve if they were socialized to be brave instead of socialized to be perfect. So in 2012, I started a company to teach girls to code. And what I found is that by teaching them to code, I had socialized them to be brave. Coding, it's an endless process of trial and error, of trying to get the right command in the right place, with sometimes just a semicolon making the difference between success and failure. Code breaks, and then it falls apart, and it often takes many, many tries till that magical moment when what you're trying to build comes to life. It requires perseverance. It requires imperfection. We immediately see in our program our girls' fear of not getting it right, of not being perfect. Every Girls Who Code teacher tells me the same story. During the first week, when the girls are learning how to code, a student will call her over and she'll say, "I don't know what code to write." The teacher will look at her screen and she'll see a blank text editor. If she didn't know any better, she'll think that her student spent the past 20 minutes just staring at the screen. But if she presses undo a few times, she'll see that her student wrote code and then deleted it. She tried, she came close, but she didn't get it exactly right. Instead of showing the progress that she made, she rather showed nothing at all. Perfection or bust. It turns out that our girls are really good at coding, but it's not enough just to teach them to code. My friend Lev Bree, who's a professor at the University of Columbia and teaches Intro to Java, tells me about his office hours with computer science students. When the guys are struggling with an assignment, they'll come in and they'll say, "Professor, there's something wrong with my code." The girls will come in and say, "Professor, there's something wrong with me." We have to begin to undo the socialization of perfection, but we gotta combine it with building a sisterhood that lets girls know that they are not alone. Because trying harder is not gonna fix a broken system. I can't tell you how many women tell me, "I'm afraid to raise my hand. I'm afraid to ask a question because I don't want to be the only one who doesn't understand, the only one who's struggling." When we teach girls to be brave and we have a supportive network cheering them on, they will build incredible things. And I see this every day. Take, for instance, 2 of our high school students who built a game called Tampon Run. Yes, Tampon Run. To fight against the menstruation taboo and sexism in gaming. Or the Syrian refugee who dares show her love for her new country by building an app to help Americans get to the polls. Or a 16-year-old girl who built an algorithm to help detect whether a cancer is benign or malignant, in the off chance that she can save her daddy's life because he has cancer. These are just 3 examples of thousands of girls who've been socialized to be imperfect, who've learned to keep trying, who've learned perseverance. And whether they become coders or the next Hillary Clinton or Beyonce, they will not defer their dreams. And those dreams have never been more important for our country. For the American economy, for any economy to grow, to truly innovate, We cannot leave behind half our population. We have to socialize our girls to be comfortable with imperfection, and we gotta do it now. We cannot wait for them to learn how to be brave like I did when I was 33 years old. We have to teach them to be brave in schools and early in their careers when it has the most potential to impact their lives and the lives of others. And we have to show them that they will be loved and accepted, not for being perfect, but for being courageous. And so I need each of you to tell every young woman you know, your sister, your niece, your employee, your colleague, to be comfortable with imperfection. Because when we teach girls to be imperfect and we help them leverage it, we will build a movement of young women who are brave and who will build a better world for themselves and for each and every one of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Rashmi, thank you. It's such a powerful vision you have. You have a vision. Tell me how it's going. Like, how many girls are involved now in your program?
Yeah. So in 2012, we taught 20 girls. This year, we'll teach 40,000 in all 50 states. And that number is really powerful because last year, we only graduated 7,500 women in computer science. Like, the problem is so bad that we can make that type of change quickly.
And you're working with some of the companies in this room even, right, who are welcoming graduates from your program?
Yeah, we have about 80 partners from Twitter to Facebook to Adobe to IBM to Microsoft to Pixar to Disney. I mean, every single company out there. And if you're not signed up, I'm going to find you. Because we need every single tech company to embed a Girls Who Code classroom in their office.
And you have some stories back from some of those companies that when you mix in more gender balance in their engineering teams, that good things happen?
Great things happen. I mean, I think that it's crazy to me to think about the fact that, you know, right now 85% of all consumer purchases are made by women. I mean, women use social media at a rate of 600% more than men. We own the internet. And we should be building the companies of tomorrow. And I think when companies have diverse teams and they have incredible women that are part of their engineering teams, they build awesome things. And we see it every day.
Rashmi, you saw the reaction there. You're doing incredibly important work. This whole community is cheering you on.
Thank you.
All power to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, we're just going to take like 5-10 minutes at each of your tables and talk about the questions that have been handed out to you, and then we'll wrap up and get you out of here just a little bit later than anticipated. Okay, so we'll come back in about. Let's just take 5 minutes. Okay. Okay, so all the tables, their first two questions were different, but the third question is the same at all the tables. So I'm going to just take this one as a group. The third question is, can S&P Global play a larger role in schools or in our communities to build bravery in girls? And how would we do that?
Why not partner and do one of those Girls Who Code programs that she was promoting?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yeah, we'll have to. Okay, can one of you take notes? Yeah.
I have one. Yeah, I didn't take notes though. If you want to write that down. The Girls Who Code. So we had a couple suggestions as well. We've partnered with a group called Girls Inc. that's here in Denver. Which is an after-school program. But we thought maybe we could do an obstacle course or, take them somewhere or schedule an event to help them kind of overcome those challenges physically. And then the other thing was maybe WINS can help host a Bring Your Child to Work Day portion in the 2 offices.
Any other tables want to share their their thoughts? Okay, if not, then Katrin, are you going to close us out? Awesome.
All right, we're going to have some giveaways. I'm waiting for my bag with names. The what? I'm just going to give away stuff, yes. And then Amanda's closing. So we have a hub page. Wins Colorado has a hub page, and we would like for you to follow us, please. We are going to give away one gift card for one of our followers on the hub page.
So as Asia was saying, the Executive Women in Connecting group meets once a month, and if you're interested in attending their events, they're free. A lot of ERG leaders and members have been attending these throughout the community, and last month there was an event down at DU where Carla Harris spoke, and it was totally awesome, and it's a great way to network and get engaged with the community.
All right. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to give Amanda to close us out for today.
Thank you, everybody. We are 13 minutes over, so apologies for keeping you a little long, but hopefully you found this informative, helpful things that you can take back and start applying to your day-to-day, whether it's personally or professionally. Keep your eyes out. We'll be sending out a survey. We'd really appreciate if you can give us feedback. Give us great scores. That would be awesome too. But really, let us know what you thought about the location, about our speakers, and if you have any recommendations, certainly fill that in as well. And a very special thank you to our board and our volunteers for putting this together. And just the last thing I was going to mention is don't forget to follow us on the hub. We do drawings at all of our events, and you don't have to be present to win. You just need to keep following us on the hub. So thank you, everybody. Drive carefully back to your homes or offices, and have a good rest of your day.